of them as well. What a move from the 48. Oh, look at this, and onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from the number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.
Your Monday night starts right here with us here on RaceSpotTV with the World GT Championship. With 5 rounds already conducted, rounds 6 and 7 will look to try and tell a tale of those who have looked around and have said, we've had wins, but we haven't quite had results we have needed. Otherwise, we need that consistency to jump into play. For others, it's a case of how do you jump in and say, where do you go and get what you need from consistency to keep your level up there. I'm Jake Sperry, that's Jeremy Scott. Jeremy, Motorland Aragón, one of the newer circuits in Spain, one of the great circuits in Spain.
You know what? It's not race enough here on the service. I'm so excited that we're here for the first time, and we've heard that it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for some of the tires. So pit stops in these 45-minute races are going to come at a premium. I can't wait to get this grid started.
Nor can I. Let's take a little look at the starting grid. James Boumet put the car on pole position ahead of Anders Mira in second for RAA Simsport. Jack Sedgwick and Harrison Crowther will be on row 2 with Lucas Prada in 5th and Alexander Davidson then in 6th. It then follows with Jan Dufner and Ross McFarlane 7th and 8th. Ross McFarlane currently 2nd in the championship for Pro with Aidan Young and Akos Shenteski then in 10th for Hymo Setups. Tommy Vidal is the fastest of the Pro-Ams. Will go from 11th with Axel Slijepcevic there in 12th. So Slijepcevic then with an okay qualifying of his own. Michael Evdocker and Dennis Grabowski 13th and 14th. It's then the Pro-Am Championship leader William Guthrie and Ivan Turnison in 16th. Aidan Carter and Michael Gray, who is 2nd in the Pro-Am Championship. He's there in 18th. David Baker is then ahead of Jack Osborne. John Lloyd qualifies the car on pole in AM ahead of Joe Newman, Phil Samways, and Jacques Eva there for Epic Sim Racing. In 25th, it's Luca Tingor with Janusz Hultain, who's got a massive lead right now, in the AM category standings. You've then got Adam Watson, Seaman Andre Livingston, Arthur Thurtle, and Eric Hartmann, which make up your top 30. You then got Tristan Engelstad and Taylor Lane. They're on row 16. Josh Boot and Howard Hassan are then row 17 with Ben Bennyworth and Jaco Vanderlit. Then in 36th with Gianni Teher and Ben Cullen, 37th and 38th. Dean Timms for Misfits Racing is 39th with Andrew Archer in 40th. Andy Scheel then follows Owen Neve in 42nd. Time set for Jesse Payne Wilkins, Nathan Healy, and Paul Smith, who is third in the AM standings at the moment, with Leander Gabrielson, Benjamin Gregory, and Colin Sansom, the three who are unable to set times based on where they are. Long formation lap going at the moment, 23 degrees track temperature out there at the moment. Let's just discuss quickly, though, Jeremy, the championship standings, because Mira leads in the pro standings without a win to his name by 16 over Ross McFarlane. James Boumé is at 29 adrift with 2 wins to his name, which has proven in pro that this is a very exciting championship. You've got Lucas Prada 4th, Aidan Young 5th, Alexander Davidson up into 6th, the current top 7 within 100 points, with Leander Gabrielson at 7th place.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing how tight this top 7 are. And of course, you take a look at drivers who are a little bit of surprise. We've got Aidan Young in the top 5. This is his first season racing here in this championship. And yeah, Mira and McFarlane without wins to their name atop the standings just goes to show you how busy it's been. Of course, if you weren't with us last round either, it was absolute mayhem, and I'm kind of glad we had a week off, because if you're looking at the chat, it's a good thing because it would have been more calamity here today.
Yeah, and so that would be troublesome, to say the least. In the standings of Pro-Am, there is just 16 points between William Guthrie and Michael Gray. Tommy Vidal is 102 points back in 3rd position, ahead of Ben Altria on his first season in Pro-Am. He's 4th. Josh Boot, Ben Cullen, Taylor Lane, Philip Schwerker in 8th, and then Aidan Carter and Joe Newman round the top 10 there. In AM, Janusz Hulte is cleared by 107 over the combination of Eric Hartmann and Paul Smith, who are his nearest challengers. Dean Timms and Benjamin Gregory 4th and 5th, with Seaman Andre Livingston in 6th. Gianni Teher, Colin Sansom, Tristan Engelstad, and Ben Bennyworth making up the top 10 then in that regard. There are also a little bit of looks that will need to be taken for the team's championship, as well as we are on the backstretch then here on this formation lap. Outer layout here today around this circuit. So Adidas Racing by WSR, 58 clear of Falcon Sim Racing Team, RAA Sim Sport 1 3rd, with Altitude Framing Sports Pure Sims 4th, and Benari Racing your top 5 in pro teams. In AM teams, Full Tilt B Motorsport League Quad Dash Racing by 13, 22 back is Full Tilt Motorsport with RAA Sim Sport 2. Then at 24 back and 39 back, Empire Motorsport. So all to play for in the team standings as well. That's without drop rounds all included. You get 1 drop in the team standings, you get 2 drops in the overall, but critically at the front for this first of 2 races here tonight. And critical to note here tonight that it is going to be races of 45 minutes then that they'll be looking at. It is pretty good out there as they will run. James Boumé looking to try and convert for a 3rd win of the season, and will be very happy. You'll know, though, he's got the championship leader directly alongside. Now, pulling to the left-hand side and jumping into the pits is the iRacing BMW M2 pace car out there. Early jump from James Boumé. We're underway here at Aragón for round 6 of the World GT Championship. It's a very aggressive turn 1. Everyone's going to try and jump in, and one car's going to get pushed on the outside. It's Alexander Davidson sliding himself through and finding troubles. We've got another couple cars that have gone around then at the early first corner, and so when everyone's trying to funnel in over 40 cars, it's a very tight and closed turn 1. So troubles as well for David Baker, Leander Gabrielson, and Jack Osborne.
I think there's your points leader who spun out there. Actually, no, he's in 2nd place. So, yeah, Boomey, Cedric Crowther, 1, 2, 3. Got another Aston off. That's one of the Altitude Freemasons of Adaka in the 989. So, already a mess out here on the first part of the race, as a couple other cars going a little bit wide. One car getting shoved off into the gravel. But right now, it's all Boomey all the time as he takes the lead early on in this race. And now we set ourselves up for the long back straightaway. We're not using the chicane today, so it really gives a chance to have these GT3 cars stretch their legs as they get set for the left-hander. It's not quite a hairpin. I would say more of a hair oval.
Well, I would say I'd use the American terming for it. It's a carousel. The final corner here at Aragón. Mira, by the way, to the back of the pack after his issues. Adam Watson with repairs required. So this is what happened with the likes then of those spinning around. Nothing to be done at that stage for Jack Osborne. He's just last in with trouble. Mira through turn 2, having a slide on the inside curve. Cold tyres opening run, so that's very tough. Hartman's got heavy damage and is leaking fluid out there. Watson, oh, that's why you're leaking fluid there. A massive accident coming out of Marc Marquez corner.
It is, and Eric Hartman involved in the crash there, so lots of problems early on. I would say about his... Yeah, more trouble. Yeah, and that's engine gone, so it might be a race over for him as Cedric trying to hold off Harrison Crowther. Real quick, taking a look at the YouTube chat, Luca Thindigo is letting us know that, hey, he's still in his Audi. Just look at the bumpers.
Yeah, he is still there. Paul Smith then, you can see going through the final section. It was Sharks Eva who's caught the curve massively on the inside. It's pitched the car to the right, and Paul has taken a massive whack then at the end of the opening lap. He said he was struggling a bit with tyres and also struggling a bit with his wisdom teeth out there, so he's really not going to want that. That is going to be as bad as a trip to the dentist then for him as he has gone through the early stages. 3 clear though at the front, which is Boume, Sedgwick and Harrison Crowther, your top 3 at the moment. Prada 4th and Ross McFarlane at the moment. He's going to be the key to this in championship turns because he's going to want to get in. Here's another look at it then. Paul Smith, massive whack then from the epic car then of Jacques Eva, and Paul on the outside, most loaded section of the track. Nothing you can do here. In towards the big long left of the final corner out on circuit. This is what the MotoGP riders will use as just in front. Big defensive line then from Jack Sedgwick then running the Inex colours as he will have Harrison Crowther trying to pick a pocket or two. Can't get it through turn 1. Now we'll have to go to the outside of 2. Can't get the crossback.
Would not be surprised, I should say, if Paul Smith decided to go fisticuffs right there. Well, wait, this is the virtual world, so you just got to understand each other and see how that works out. But either way, working our way through 3 and setting ourselves up for a couple other corners here. Here's Colin Sansom with some issues. So already race 1 proving quite treacherous for a lot of drivers. First couple of laps as the 911 noses right in there, and David Baker once again with a little bit of issues, a spin, and gets tapped. Nowhere for anyone to go there, and that's just how racing at Aragon is now you see the leaders working their way around. Marc Marquez, the downhill, setting themselves up for the long run down the back straightaway as Lucas Prada trying to hold off Ross McFarlane and Aiden Young. Look at Young in the Corvette looking pretty good in the WSR Esports number 427 as he tries to climb higher in the point standings. Gotta say, he's really adapting to this series as being the only American. And of course, we say that pretty lightly because Aiden, he's one fast shoe. It doesn't matter what car he gets into.
Exactly, that's going to be critical. Michael Evdoka here in 9th position. He's got William Guthrie, the current Pro-Am leader in this race behind, and the championship leader of that category too. So he's going to be in there. There's a slide then, and it's going to create a massive checkup in the group behind around Michael Gray. That's Jan Dufner, and they're going to fan out here to 3 wide, almost 4 here along this main straight. This is going to be massive. You got Turnison looking down to the inside. Tommy Vidal's in there. Now they're 2 wide, 3 deep off the exit of turn 1. Alexander Davidson in here. You've got Dennis Grabowski in this group as well. This is a massive group of cars that have got to try and sort themselves out then. In through 4 and 5, clearance from the back at the front, but they're still trying to lunge, and there's even moves behind from the likes then of Josh Boot, who's down the inside of Luca Tingor in the Porsche, which has the Audi rings on the front of it.
Technically, it's an Audi then. I mean, it's a Porsche. I'm not even going to go deep into that one, but things have kind of calmed down for this battle for position, but everybody kind of tightens back up. And Jake, I have a feeling once they work their way in through Marc Marquez, they're going to get all wound up and draft off each other, heading down that long back straightaway. And the carousel turn 13 could be a position on where they have some sort of pass. You see Sam Weisfeld, Andre Livingston, and John Lloyd all in a battle for position near the back. So no matter where you look, it's getting quite racy, and Lloyd really knocking at the door there for that 26. It's going to be an in-class battle with him and Andre Livingston. Livingston hardly giving him any quarter, down the back straightaway. About a car width, that's all you really need to make a pass, and indeed, he's going to draft off of him. That side draft's going to work quite nicely heading into the carousel. Lloyd has a line in his Aston Martin, and he gets a position.
Well, Lloyd had a massive gap. He actually had contact on that lap through the Sacacorchos, and so that really did put pay dirt to what he wanted. Car slow on the left-hand side, serving a slowdown penalty there by the looks of it. So that's Phil Samways, who's trying to deal with that the best he can. There has been a pass for fourth, so that has been a change overall that's put Ross McFarlane and Aidan Young both ahead of Lucas Prada, who has fallen back, the Czechian driver, to sixth position. This is Howard Hassan, also, who's a little loose on entry, got a tag, and then managed to just get out of the way. That was Eric Hartmann, heavy over the curb there, and you can see a secondary hit that catches one of the McLarens around. So Hartmann also going for a bit of trouble out here. New build, new understanding here of what they've got to try and deal with, and after a week off, they would be a little bit antsy to try and get in and racing with each other again.
Yeah, no surprise here is now everything that, the message boards, those are all a thing of the past. Andy Shield kind of slapped them all on the wrist and said, knock it off, boys. And of course, they're taking out their crushing here on the racetrack, which is absolutely fantastic. Ross McFarlane looking back at his mirror, and seeing a WSR Corvette back there. That's Young. Prada also sitting back there in a nice little draft spot. Oh man, this Michael Gray battle, absolutely fantastic. We saw Vettel and Davidson try and make a pass there going into the carousel. They thought better of it. Of course, Davidson also has a Tennyson right there on his back bumper. You're on board with Davidson down below as he looks to the inside of Fast Tommy Vettel. They're going to go side by side through turn one. Vettel's going to have the advantage through turn two as he's got the inside, and once again just closes in nice and deep. This is absolutely fantastic stuff. Working our way towards turn number three, and that kind of pushes the Davidson a little wide, but Vettel has to surrender the position for the time being.
Those two RAA cars there on the bottom of your screen really had to sit back and understand who's going to be the one to go out there and attack, and Tommy Vidal was trying everything possible, but it just didn't quite work against the driver of Alexander Davidson's quality. Of course, he got the win last time out. A look at your manufacturers there on the right-hand side briefly that went through, and you can see there Turnison almost pushing through turn 9 of the Sacacorchos, and now through Marc Marquez corner to go and push at fourth on the top of your screen. McFarlane and Young and Prada, and also Akos Szentesky, the Hungarian who is there behind in the number 16 car. So that's an important group that's holding, but they are dropping time to your leaders. They're over 4 seconds back at 6 currently. Boumet with the 2 Aston Martins of Jack Sedgwick and Harrison Crowther behind.
Or so Tennyson with a little bit of runoff there, going off at turn number 11 as he sets himself up for the back straightaway. But still, this McFarlane Young Prada battle absolutely fantastic, as Szentesky looking pretty good as well in that AMG Mercedes, and sitting back there as well. That's Slivovic and Evdaka. So lots of great battles throughout. And yeah, the fact that Boomy, Sedgwick, and Crowther are able to walk away from this battle for 4th place is really helping them out. Tristan Engelstad with a replay, and yeah, that back end just slipped. Oh, that was a little bit of contact there.
That's not a little bit of contact, that's a lot of bit of contact for Engelstad. And you can't expect a car to be spinning around at turn 10. It's where you got the car just planted down as you run through 11. You're not expecting any excess wheel spin, but if you're just over the top of the level of grip there, you can have a massive, massive moment. And so that has really put a lot of hurt in this race at this stage. So I think that's something that is worth noting there, that Engelstad had that massive bit of contact to try and deal with. It's put him back in the pack further, and it's proving once more that in AM category, if you can have yourself steady and not worry too much, you're going to be in a much better position than you are compared to some others. The car that was hit was the Empire Motorsports car of Joe Newman by the looks of things.
The M class, just, keep your nose clean and all should be well. Of course, sometimes you'll end up in somebody else's mess, but AM class, a lot of learning here either way, as you're also on board with William Guthrie sitting there in 10th place, trying to close down on the 989 of Michael Evdaka, who ran into so many problems last time out in our Enduro at Hockenheim, and trying to really improve here in these twin 45-minute races. We're just past 10 minutes in, and Evdaka not able to climb too much yet. He's up 4 spots, but kind of surprising for a driver of his stature to not be further up, but that just goes to show you how good that whole top 10 is today.
Yeah, this is a really tough top 10. You look around, 9 pros in there, and William Guthrie, who on his pace can sometimes be acclimatised to having pro pace out there. Alexander Davidson cutting through as well on Michael Gray. We just saw the back end of that, so an important pass there. Gray is needing to try and hold then in terms of pace, but they're also keeping their eyes open on what could potentially happen later on here, because round 7, you got to remember the touring car feel to it, the reverse grid.
Watson with a black flag, so his day goes from bad to worse. And yeah, let's see how the invert works out. Of course, some people like the mayhem of a full invert. It's a new track. Why the heck not? Let's root for it. As Watson going to have to come into the pits and answer that black flag here shortly. But Aiden Young closing in once again on Ross McFarland for position, as he's got Prada on his back end as they work their way up the main straightaway. And of course, Prada looking to the outside and seeing that once again McFarland just leading this train. It's a 4th place train, and the Mercedes is up at the pointy end.
Jeremy, for Adam Watson, that's 19 incident points in 12.5 minutes.
Okay, well, that's something. Gianni Terhar, he's had an up and down season, and once again, looks like that he's riding the roller coaster down his last time out, finishing on the podium at the Enduro, and just, I bet you he wishes that he could have that luck again. But 19 incident points in 12 minutes, that's got to be some sort of new record.
It's a lot, and it's a lot when you consider that you get caught up in a number of incidents here and there, and you get a 4X here, a 4X there. You consider it, that's 5 pieces of major contact, for example, that would have been brought in, so you can't afford to have too many of those out there at this point. McFarlane then in 4th position, leading the train here right now, and a penalty incident limit then being hit as well for Owen Neve, who had just come down then. Sorry, no, that's not a penalty in the pits. I think that is not serving a slowdown, or whether he's just come out of the pits and crossed the line wrong out there. I think it was, in fact, for crossing the white line on pit exit for Owen Neve. That's why he's got his penalty now, and he'll have to come in again. So there is a lot to try and uncover at the moment. We know William Guthrie currently leads the pros, as here's Jesse Payne Wilkins is having a bit of a slide. Let's take a look at this drone view. Oh, there's not much you can do about that. Wrong place, wrong time. Adam Watson, that's the story of his day, really. Bang, into the wall.
Yeah, it's just, that seems to be the story of most people, say, who get into trouble here at Aragon, where it's like you're behind somebody, one driver has a problem, the other doesn't. And, like I said, Paul Smith gave us kind of a rundown of, hey, this is what can happen, this is what's going on in practice. So none of this is a big surprise to any of us, but still, for some of the drivers, it is a little bit of a big surprise. Hey, there's Paul right there as he's trying to get chased down by Ross McFarlane. He'll get out of the way down here on the back straightaway as they work their way through probably one of the tightest portions of this racetrack, set themselves up through Marc Marquez, and now they go down the long back straightaway as Neve goes into the pits to serve his penalty. But I imagine that some drivers might try and make those tires last throughout this run, but how difficult is it going to be looking at the track of the air temp, I don't think it's going to be that much of a difficulty. But then again, this is the first time that these drivers have raced here all together as a group. I'm sure some have probably raced in different series here, but it's just so rare to see Aragón on any schedule.
Yeah, it's one of those circuits that people know of but don't particularly like driving very much. It is a great cauldron of a circuit to create racing, and we've seen packs forming out there at this point. For example, Vidal and Gray and Grabowski is one of those packs. That's going on here in 14th position. Your AM leader has changed and chopped about so much by AM's running into trouble out there. It's currently Seaman Andre Livingston who is in control of it, with just 2 cars down the line behind the AM Championship leader, Janos Schulte, who has kept himself out of trouble. So that's critical, but top and bottom of your screen, you've got this wonderful running at this moment, and in 45-minute races, it's too short to be considered a true out-and-out sprint. Too long to be an out-and-out sprint, too short to be one where you're thinking about everything around you. I think you're looking at these drivers here and they're just trying to build what they can. That's incredibly wide there by Seaman Andre Livingston. I wouldn't be surprised if he got a slowdown penalty of the ilk there, going through the 90-degree right then of turn 7. Now looking over to the Sacacorchos here of turners 8 and 9.
We're going to dive deeper into the Adam Watson story because, we both thought it was crazy. He got 17x by 12 minutes. Jan Duffner gets a black flag. Adam Watson checking in on the chat. He was 14x by lap 1. Just going to leave it there.
Yeah, it's instant limit for Jan Duffner, and sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles. You find yourself in the middle, and you find yourself basically as the pinball out there, and that's no good. This is Benjamin Gregory here into turn 7 in the Boosted Motorsport Mustang, and ultimately that Mustang needing Pegasus wings to try and get out of a situation like that. Very tough, lighting up the tyres and turning around will absolutely scorch the rear tyres out there, but McFarlane for the moment keeping himself in that 4th position, eyeing up the group behind at this stage. I do want to pay some attention here to the front, because Jack Sedgwick's been a driver who, you put him down on paper here, Jeremy, he should be a favourite to go and win the championship, as they do fight behind. Big group right now trying to get around Paul Smith, for example, there. So that is Slijepcevic there with Michael Evdoka and William Guthrie. But you look at a driver like Jack Sedgwick, he's expected to be a championship challenger. He is one of the best drivers in GT spec that the UK has produced in esports.
Yeah, he really is. But when you have the likes of Boomy, McFarlane, all those drivers who've been running the series for a while, it's no surprise that Sedgwick is finding it hard to fight tooth and nails. Pit stops have started. Engelstad, Gregory, Payne Wilkins, Timms, all in for their compulsory pit stop, and it's going to be interesting to see when the pros decide that they're going to want to pit, because it's all the AMs who have answered the call of that one pit stop. But back to what we were saying, it just goes to show the depth here in this series of how good all these drivers are. You put one driver, in a special event, another driver in a different championship, and they're going to be out front. But you have so many A-list drivers who are here racing in the series, and this is where these GT spec drivers want to be. Oh, there's a little tap by Young on McFarlane as he falls back into the clutches of Prada for 5th place, but McFarlane is still able to open up a little bit of gap through turn 3.
It was a little late there from Aidan Young. He saw the gap. He might have slightly missed a braking mark as well. I think he's lucky that he hasn't got damage on the front of his Corvette. Prada as well. Lucky that he didn't get caught up in that. Shenteski was looking at trying to get himself closer, but ultimately the way that accordioned up, he didn't really have a chance for it. So really tough then in that group as they look to try and push forward. They've got a lot of traffic in front in the forms of those who have made their first stops, and look at what it has done here for Jack Sedgwick. He's got a really good opportunity now to hug the range that is there, and this is a circuit that you have to note, you don't really use those bottom gears, which is the pet peeve of the Aston Martin, so this should be a great circuit for Sedgwick and for Crowther to go and get points by virtue of the balance of performance.
Something to note as well as Cedric tries to look to the inside here, defending series champion around the carousel. it was Ben Gregory who had the earlier incident. He actually has a new paint scheme this week. He was able to get in on the last minute, and none of the pros decide that they're going to pit at least in the top three between Boomay, Sedgwick, and Crowther. But we do see some other cars diving into pit road. Rest of your top 10 decide it's too early to come in for that one and only pit stop that they need this race. Ben Gregory is the one who decided to come in.
Yeah, so we're seeing a slew of pit stops then from drivers. Gregory is one of them who's looking for his box and then to get service and back out and away. A 0.9 second pit stop out there is a nothing pit stop in the books because as they sit, they have the use of one fast repair. So that wouldn't have been a stop for service, that would have been a stop just to get the car then working once again and back out there and pushing for the moment. Down through the Sacacorchos corners, then the right of 8, the left of 9, and through Marc Marquez here of turn number 10, the most decorated rider then in the history of MotoGP, but also a rider right now that has done wonders over the course of this generation. You will look now at a driver of his generation in James Boumé, who is doing what he needs to at the front, holding himself steady. Now 007 car, watch out there. Oh, well, you're going to need a little bit something more there for Andy Shield to get away with that. Shake it. Oh, and he somehow gets it out of the way there by hitting reverse at just the right time. My goodness.
That was a good way to save it from ended up having a bigger incident. So smart moves by Shield as once again Boomay trying to hold off Sedgwick for position. And you see back there Ross McFarlane watching some of the lap down cars make some passes here as they go around turn number 1. It's still McFarlane, Young, Prada, and Santeski who are sitting back there in that field. But Boomay, Sedgwick, and Crowther 1, 2, 3 up top. So you got the battle for first and the battle for fourth heating up. Jan Duffner, one of the first pro drivers to come in and answer the call. So what that tells me is within the next lap or two, I think we're going to see the top 10 come in for their compulsory pit stop.
I think that's the service penalty because he hadn't yet served it yet. So he's going to go down the lane, get that penalty served, and hopefully get himself back out there and attack the second half of this race. Amazing to think we're only a halfway through. There's been so much action out there. It's been very much like watching a Spanish telenovela, for example, over the course of this first race that we have seen. Young looking behind at Prada and then Shinteski there. It looks like McFarlane's been able to get a bit of a gap then on this run, and it is a very long straight on the outer layout. You don't get the chicane up the hill and back down it again, which slows these cars down, so they get to run up well over 270 kilometers an hour on this straight down the hill. Little push then from behind by Lucas Prada that puts him up to 283 on the straight in towards the final corner, what we're calling today the carousel-esque style attempt as they go through. It's very, very fast, and you don't expect GT spec cars to be hitting themselves at what is effectively 40 to 50 kilometers an hour slower than Formula and hypercar spec.
Oh, you really don't. Well, how many times do you see the outer layout being used for something other, for something other than probably would be a more of a, I'm trying to think here, a slower spec car, more of a momentum car. That was the word I was looking for, that big M word. You don't really, because a lot of to slow these cars down. That's why they put that chicane in. But you know what? We're running here in the simulator world, so it's absolutely fantastic to see what these cars can do at speed down this long back straightaway. One of the longest that we can use here on the service. Of course, it's not the longest. We have already visited those places. See Avdaka knocking on the door of that 8th place, as well as Aiden Young losing a little bit of ground between he and McFarlane for 4th place, but Prada still on that rear wing of the 427 as they work their way down the back straightaway once again.
Yeah, you've got Axel Slijepcevic then, who is in 8th place. That's who Avdaka on the bottom is trying to chase. And note here that they're both WSR cars, although Prada is racing for Adidas Racing by WSR. He's not going for the moves here, Jeremy. He's pushing as Avdaka goes to the outside trying to get the move. Now he's going to try and cut back under to get the run off the exit, but Slijepcevic has done really well to get that sorted. Here's something else that you got to know. At Aragón, you must be so careful through the final corner on the final lap. If you run out wide, you get a slowdown penalty. It's an extra 40 seconds, almost automatic at the end of the race.
Something you definitely don't want to have, as Slijepcevic still holding on to that 8th place. And of course, he's got to play defense, but not cop any sort of slowdown penalty, because you've got 2 very fast Mustangs behind as well, with Avdaka and Guthrie. And Avdaka doing all he can to get into the mirrors and get inside the head of Slijepcevic. And of course, this is the highest we've seen Slijepcevic this season, so great to see him up in that 8th spot. Aiden Young trying his hardest to close in on McFarland for 4th place, but he just cannot get that Corvette up there and up to battle the Mercedes-Benz AMG down that back straightaway as he opens up the throttle coming off of turn number 11, and it's going to be game on for McFarland as he looks in his mirror and sees Young and Prada still neck and neck.
Yeah, he knows that they are trying to work with him for the moment, but alliances can break pretty quickly, as we will see now here on the top of your screen here with Slijepcevic. There's nothing he can do about this on the straight. Almost 10 kilometers an hour of difference. That Mustang absolutely flies past the other one. And look at a dive by William Guthrie, straight down the inside. Ultimate opportunist.
Oh, that was a bold move by Guthrie, not helping his Guthrie for Pro qualms here, as we see one car dive right into pit road. That's going to be Slijepcevic. He decides, you know what, I'm going to get past. I might as well come in for fresh rubber, and that's indeed what he's going to do.
Yeah, realised he lost 2 places. It was a late decision to dive down in. He was lucky he didn't catch the attenuator as he went down into pits, but he will certainly take this time, get himself some fuel service, get a fresh set of boots on if he feels like he needs to, and get back out there and attacking the final few minutes of this race. We expect all drivers to make 1 pit stop for fuel. Out there, 14.2, the stop for Slijepcevic, who will be looking to try and drive on his merry way. So you turn around and say, well, if everyone's got to make 1 stop, everyone's going to want the car to go as long as possible in this early stint, and say, look, we want to pit as late as possible out there at the moment. Look at the group that is there in front for Ross McFarlane. It's Eric Hartmann and Joe Newman, and Hartmann pulls over to one side. Joe Newman, I think, realises he can get a bit of a run here if he tactically lets them all through.
See what happens here as they go down the back straightaway, and McFarlane, he's opening a look into the inside, but look at how close Prada is on the back of Young as you see that move to the inside. Oh, I hope that everybody's able to make it through, and indeed they are. Davidson now sitting there in 10th place, so he's made his way up as more and more cars are coming into the pits. Who are not coming into the pits are the rest of the top 10, as Booming now has Sedgwick even closer than he's been all race long, but closer than that, it's Crowther to the back of Sedgwick right now for 2nd place. So a great battle for the podium, but a great battle for 4th on back as well. As you see more and more cars come into the pits, Guthrie, Carter, Vidal, and Gray. Some of your fast Pro-Ams are deciding to answer the call.
Yeah, they are. So they are throwing a very good run at the moment, saying they need to jump down into the pits. They need to make that service. Aiden Carter, of course, 15 seconds is there at this moment in time, and showing that it's a lot then in terms of the stops. 14.2 from William Guthrie, a lot better, and so he'll be looking around and wondering where Slijepcevic is. He is just going around the opening corner now. Jesse Payne-Wilkins now all of a sudden hits the limit, and he's going to have a drive-through penalty to serve then as well. So there's a lot going on right now, and all the while at the front, sometimes on some laps you're seeing Jack Sedgwick get close to James Boumé. On other laps you're seeing Harrison Crowther looking like he's going to be the one to push. And speaking of which, Young and Prada are continuing on with that at the moment. Crowther not really doing too much with it. That's very wide though. Then through the corner by Jack Sedgwick. I think he's trying to pivot for the pits. 1, 2, 3. All your leaders are in.
How do you like it? As everybody decides to come in, let's see if McFarland, Young, and Prada decide to follow suit as they're closing in. Paul Smith with a black flag, and indeed, the rest of the top 10 decide that they are going to come in this time by. So it's going to be a race off pit road as Boomy comes down onto his pit stall. Now he's going to cut off across Sedgwick and Crowther as they work their way down into the pits. Rest of the field now stopping. It's going to be no tires for any of these guys.
Oh,
as Davidson, he gets the black flag for too fast entering.
Oh, that's going to hurt, and he's done that already this season, and it's critical. Watch Harrison Crowther off the pit exit. They're inside each other as they look to leave, and neither of them are going to yield, and finally, it's Jack Sedgwick who does. Oh, my goodness, Harrison Crowther's jumped him, and I was going to make the point here out there as you got Paul Smith as well, who's got penalty as well to go and serve. I was going to make the point here, Jeremy, that it was Jack Sedgwick who was a little tentative finding his box because they have to share pit stalls here at Aragón. He had someone already in his box.
Yeah, he already did, and you could tell by the time gap. It's 37.6 pit lane entry to exit for Crowther, 38.014 for Sedgwick. And watch this pit exit out of the two of them. I don't think you can cut it any closer if you tried.
Yeah, they would have stayed in that ghosted form between each other until they had enough car separation. So if Jack Sedgwick wanted to really race for it, he would have been right there trying to get that sorted. He hit the brakes ultimately coming out of the exit, and so that was just to get sightline on a single track pit exit there on that outside work. So that was really tough to deal with. There's the fabled wall there of the higher section of the circuit on the right-hand side that we just saw. But critically, James Boumet back out in front and with a second in the back pocket over the likes of Harrison Crowther. Third is Jack Sedgwick. Lucas Prada had a great stop. He must have been saving a lot of fuel in that first stint because he has leapfrogged McFarland and Young.
Well, he's got at least a second in pocket in the pit stall, 12-2 with everybody in the high to mid-third 13. So really a great pit stop out of Prada to jump everybody and make his way into the top 5 as the rest of the field kind of staying where they were. But yeah, that was a great pit stop out of the 10 of Prada. He's got a little bit of a gap between he and McFarland. So a great jump for the two Mercedes cars is now, should Aiden Young try something here, as he's even closer to McFarland than he's been all race long. Prada might be there to help defend.
Let's just do a bit of house cleaning then on the other categories as well. In Pro-Am, William Guthrie has a 5-second margin over Aidan Carter and one car in between. So we'll be looking to score a few more points on Michael Gray, who is currently third in class at the moment. The AM, Janusz Schulte, is there as we focus on Michael Gray's battle. That's a bit wide, and suddenly, oopsie daisy there, as the move then is going to be Michael Gray's. Then by the traffic of Colin Sansom. In the AMS, Janusz Schulte is in a commanding position, 2 places ahead of Seaman Andre Livingston, who is just there fighting with Jack Osborne, who is just gone through on him. So that is a change out there. And the one driver that we haven't really talked about since the opening lap and the spin that went through out there is, of course, the Norwegian championship leader, Anders Mira, who at this moment in time, I'm just trying to look to see where he is in the order here. He is going to be there in 29th position right now in the number 20. He's there with Jan Dufner at this point, and so you're turning around and going, this is screaming drop round.
It really is, and unfortunately, you know, what a rough start to the race that he had, but the one thing he's really hoping for is an invert to where he can be starting up near the front, and if that's the case, he's definitely going to be one to watch as he tries to get around here through the carousel. Not going to make it happen, but yeah, Mira, you know, it seems like anytime he comes and has a great result, that falling anvil is just waiting for him. It's either that or the piano with the delivery from Acme.
Yeah, it's very much there like Wile E. Coyote at this point in time. How long are you going to stay there and realise that you're going to be left holding up the problem out there in this race? You really don't want to be sat down in that regard and dealing with it here. This is a circuit that is highly known for picking up a lot of incident points out there, so you've got to be very cautious around this track, and especially when you've got another race to come along as well, and especially the point here, Jeremy, that your result in race 1 will tell you where you need to be on the grid for race number 2. It is a major difference out there. At the front, it is Bume, and then Crowther, and then Cedric. Your 1, 2, and 3. Crowther, just under a second. He's been slowly reeling that in to the AMG Mercedes.
And I think that that's good news for Bume as he tries to open up that gap to almost a second. Watching Crowther and Cedric, the 2 Aston Martins, go at it here in the closing stage of this race. We're under 10 minutes left to go in this race. But yeah, Cedric trying to recover after a little bit longer pit stop than Crowther had. And Crowther was able to leapfrog him with I don't know if you'd call it an undercut, especially there in the pits at the same pit stop, but either way, Crowther really smiling nice and pretty as he tries to look for second place, and still got this wonderful battle for fourth between Prada, McFarlane, and Young.
Well, it's 2 direct teammates here between Prada and McFarlane, and you note where Mira is down the order. I would argue if you are at Adidas, you might, even this early in the season here, Jeremy, ask Lucas Prada to move over, because this is the difference between championship lead or not, potentially, for Ross McFarlane. James Bume leading complicates things, but this is as many points as you can get scenario. Even this early, we're not even, or in fact, we're just over a quarter of the way through the season.
Yeah, you definitely want to get as much that you can in as early as you can. Of course, that's where we saw James Bume win the championship last year, as he kept, adding points early on. Because second half of the season, let's be real here, it was not what Bume expected, and it came down to the last lap of the race last season for him to clinch a championship and wear that 1 number plate. And of course, still, he's 29 points in arrears right now from Anders Mira and Ross McFarlane, who, by the way, he's in front of today. So this is a great points day for your defending champion.
He needs it, and he knows that he's been a little bit circumspect compared to last season, where he was first or second and there wasn't much in between. There's a look there for fourth that doesn't quite happen at turn 5 out on track, but at your leaders here, Harrison Crowther in the, yes chat, 6-7 car, we get it, going in towards turns 8 and 9. The Sakakorchos out there at this point. Jack Sedgwick is going to be the one who sits on the back with nothing to lose in this group, thinking, I really need to kickstart my season, and I'm going to need a really strong result. So the only way I'm going to be able to manage that is if I can start hunting down and passing these drivers, but time is rapidly running out here. We're down to 7 minutes and 20 seconds left in this race. You start turning it around and going, you're in the final stage of this one. You're going to have to make moves whether you like them or not. Little feint to the inside by Sedgwick, and he's not going to get the move done on Crowther through this long carousel final corner.
Well, you got to stop and figure, too, that, yeah, this is a 45-minute race. You're going to have another one here shortly. But you don't want to have any bad juju going into the second race, because if you decide you're going to make that late move and then you take somebody out, as Jakob van der Lift has some issues here, a little bit of a move to a suggested line, as I should say, as a 161 ends up at the runoff and gets that BMW back underway slowly but surely. But either way, let's take a look at that replay again. It's amazing how cars can just go backwards. But, then Crowther's caught up with Bume. Crowther and Cedric have both caught up with Bume there for the battle for the lead. We're talking about making moves where you don't want to, as McFarlane goes up to fourth. We're starting to see a little bit of desperation in some of these drivers.
Yeah, that's just a pure-blooded mistake through turn 4 into 5 there for James Bume. You don't often get to see it. Wide line taken, though, coming off the exit and through Marc Marquez. He'll build back 0.4 of a second, but this is where the Aston Martin is going to need to try and spread its wings a little bit by comparison to Bume, who's going to be out there on the front. This is what they're trying to hold back with at the moment. How much overspeed are you going to get on these straights? How much are you saving in the tank and leaving your one final opportunity to this final corner out here on circuit? It's not a massive braking zone. You're going from 280 kilometers an hour to 150, but you're scrubbing the speed slowly as you turn through the corner. You're only at turning apex speed at 200 kilometers an hour. That's critical. A look to the inside from Harrison Crowther. He doesn't elect to make the move yet. He might need to use a car like Ben Bennyworth's in front as a pick to get this move with 5:14 on the clock.
Crowther just all over the back door of Boumé as they worked their way into the first half of this lap. I've got to say this, the former teammate, looking for any sort of issue as Crowther tries to look to the inside. He doesn't, and it seems like that corner, Jake, has been nothing but problems for Boumé since pit stop.
Yeah, and this is where you look around at turns 4 into 5. It very much reminds me of a more elongated version of turn 15 into 16 out there at the Circuit of the Americas. It's a late apex that you've got to try and turn in for. Very easy to run wide. A little bit further back, this is Luca Tingor in the Audi spec Porsche at this moment. I'm sure there's a conniption that has just been had by some of the German manufacturers out there for seeing that livery in play. Thurtle behind, Josh Boot there as well. They're trying to pick up all important points on the bottom of your screen. And Boumé again has the best drive in the world coming out of the Sacacorchos. And this is what is just saving his bacon right now.
We're going to distract people from what they're talking about in the chat. Are Audi and Porsche still parent cars under the same umbrella? So, I mean, he's kind of right.
I mean, to a point you are, but then you turn around and say that also means that Volkswagen's under the same umbrella and Lamborghini's under the same umbrella. Ultimately, you can turn around and say there are a lot of companies under a lot of different umbrellas, and you turn around and here's my weird fact of the day with 3:30 on the clock here as Boumé holds himself to half a second out there at this point. You can take almost every food company in the United States and almost every product, and you can split it to the parent companies of 13 companies.
Deep Thoughts with Jake Sperry here on RaceSpotTV. Never thought you'd get that, ladies and gentlemen, did you? Look, once again, we see Joe Newman with the black flag, but hey, at least this time through the 4-5 complex, Boumé able to keep Crowther and Sedgwick at arm's length, but no, not this time, as Crowther is all having to deal with Sedgwick through the Marc Marquez corner as they work their way around. Had some lap traffic to deal with, but Crowther able to get back on the loud pedal even further, and lots more black flags coming through. It's just been a race of attrition in terms of trying to stay out of trouble.
Colin Sansom with one, Jesse Payne Wilkins has one out there at the moment. This is really difficult to go and deal with at this point, and they will know that if they can't serve it, they will be added on as time penalty at the end of this race. Boumé will look around and see 2 laps to go when he crosses the line, and I would turn and say that this has suddenly turned into a race not of that of fighting for the win, but 2 cars going at it for second. McFarlane, by the way, ahead of Prada, so that puts McFarlane up now into 4th position as he has got that done a handful of laps ago. Car exiting the pits just in front is Joe Newman after the penalty. Balks the run, and this is what Sedgwick needs.
Exactly what Sedgwick needs, and of course it's nobody's fault but Newman's for having to come in for the black flag, and of course that closes in Sedgwick even closer as he goes around the outside of Crowther. They're still side by side, and that's exactly what Boumé wanted. He wanted these 2 to race, and with a handful of minutes left to go, they're going to be racing neck and neck headed towards the 8-9 complex in just a little bit of time. Sedgwick has the advantage so far, but it's going to go back to Crowther, so move Sedgwick still behind Crowther, and he's got another opportunity to try and make something happen.
Oh, he's so close underneath through Marc Marquez at turn 10. Now looking to get the drive over here to turn 11 and realizing now that they are in a race only with themselves at this point. Here comes the think about where am I going to have to go against this altitude frame esports car. It's to the outside. They've both got the same machinery. Now you just got to lean on the side draft here. Look at them. You can't split anything between them. Sedgwick pinned on the outside. Crowther on that inside line. Big, wide, arcing line. Crowther is going to be able to defend as the last lap of this first race of the night is going to start for James Boumé out here at this moment in time. Is there a search down at turn number 1? No from Jack Sedgwick, and I think you're eyeing up the inside on the final lap. Sansom then with still the black flag to have to try and deal with out there. Drivers will know just how difficult this is going to be late on through as they will rush then through to those cars in front right now. This is the next group here with Sedgwick, Crowther, and they will know that they've got Joe Newman following all the way back. They can't afford mistakes. The car in the number 67 goes through turn 6 and 7, looks at James Boumé 2 seconds down the road as he leads this, and they'll know they've only got this one long straight to try and set up the run out of the Sacacorchos for the final time. Big wide arcing efforts then as they'll almost try and take a long lap penalty that they are that far working around at this point. This is what you need from a driver of the caliber of James Boumé on one race pace. When you qualify a car, James has been nigh on unstoppable this season. In his races, he has won in sprint modes over and over again. Sedgwick trying desperately to find a move on Crowther. Will he have a lunge to go through? Round the final corner, past Colin Sansom, who was a little slow on the inside. James Boumé, 1, 2, 3 times this season, is going to pick up his victory. A brilliant result. Crowther holds off Jack Sedgwick.
I'll tell you what, that was some great defense by Crowther down the long back straightaway. But Boumé, who almost ended up losing the lead, ends up the win. Here comes William Guthrie, the only Pro-Am car in the top 10, flashes his lights. He is your winner in the Pro-Am class. We don't have to wait very long for your Am winner, who's right back. Oh, no!
Luca Tingor is out of fuel. He's going to have to limp around the final corner. Janis Schultain then in a massive scrap towards the end with Jack Osborne and Phil Samways. It'll be an extra place up, but critically for Janis, he will take the AM race win honours again as he moves through. And now you're starting to turn. Tingor 80 kilometres an hour. This is harrowing there as he just crests the rise, looking to get to the line here. Everyone's going to go by him then. Taylor Lane goes by Tingor over the line. Ben Cullen, I think, just got the clearance on Tingor. My, oh my, a race one of 45 minutes that proved to have everything in it. Let's take a little look at results then, first and foremost, as we get a lot uncaught here from round number 6 of the championship. It's a win for James Boumé over Harrison Crowther by 2.3 seconds. Jack Sedgwick gave it a red-hot go every stage of the way. Ross McFarlane would finish in 4th ahead of Lucas Prada and Aidan Young 4th, 5th and 6th for WSR cars, as Akos Shenteski would have a quiet and very good 7th place finish for him ahead of Michael Evdoka and Axel Slijepcevic. You then got William Guthrie, who rounds out your top 10 as the leader of the Pro-Am field, ahead of Dennis Grabowski, Aidan Carter, and his main championship rival at Full Tilt, Michael Gray, in 13th. Ivan Turnison is 14th ahead of Arthur Turtle and Jack Osborne, with Janis Schultain for Fry Guys in 17th. Phil Samways in 18th ahead of Leander Gabrielson and Anders Mira. Then only a 20th place, a lot of work to do. Jan Dufner and John Lloyd, 21st and 22nd, and Alexander Davidson, he was from pillar to post, 23rd for him. Tristan Engelstad, 24th. Then you've got a slew of Pro-Am, Shield, Lane, Cullen, Tingor, who ran out of fuel, Josh Boo and Tommy Vidal making up the top 30. Jacques Evers, 31st with David Baker and Seaman Andre Livingston. Jaco van der Ligt turned around as well with Dean Timms, Gianni Teher, who had a lot of pitting to do for Quad Dash, and Howard Hassan. A lap down for Joe Newman, Ben Bennyworth and Benjamin Gregory there for Boosted Motorsport. And the final page there, you see more lap down out there. You've got the likes of Hartman, Smith, Watson, Sansom. There is 2 laps down. Retirees being Jesse Payne-Wilkins, Owen Neve, Andy Archer, and Nathan Healy making the 48 out there. So that's how that sits. Now, how does the grid look for round 7? How much of a reverse is it going to be? We're going to spin that wheel. We're going to see exactly how much it could be. It could be anywhere between 21 to 30 and a full. And the second highest you can get is a 30-car reverse. It will put Tommy Vidal on the pole position. He didn't have the best of race ones. That is critical here as they set themselves up for round 7, Jeremy.
And Anders Mira will get into the top 10 with this. So it's going to be fantastic. He gets to basically redeem himself after that lap 1 incident that basically put him near the back of the pack. But Jake, that was an absolutely fantastic race. And with this being pretty much darn near close to a full field invert, it's going to be a blast to see how race 2 gets underway.
Well, it's going to be aggressive. You're going to see many moves trying to be thrown, and drivers need to be patient, yet use the time available to them. And they will do so just after this here on RaceSpotTV.
As well. What a move for the 48. Oh, look at this. And onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from the number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.
It's going to get crazy in round 7 here of the World GT Championship presented by World Sim Racing. This is going to be as tough can be. It's Jake Sperry and Jeremy Scott. Jeremy, quickly before we go to the grid, 30-car reverse at a track that proved, at least with everyone in a racing order, that you're going to get knocked about a little bit off the start. This is going to be one of the craziest starts we're going to see all season.
I think so. A 30-car invert is just like a full field invert almost anywhere else, with the drivers still trying to figure out their way around this facility. I can't wait to see how it pulls out, and you've got some fast drivers actually who are going to be up at the front who ran into trouble in race 1.
And so we will see how they're going to stack. It is 45 minutes again. They have one pit stop again to make, but critically here in this second race, they've got to hold themselves accountable in the sense that they must tiptoe through the start of running. It is car 69 on pole position with Tommy Vidal in control of the field. He will have alongside him the Empire Motorsports 996 of Josh Boot for company. It is Pro-Ams through the first 6 as Luca Tingor will start in 3rd, Ben Cullen in 4th, with Taylor Lane in 5th, and Andy Shield for the WSR veterans there in 6th. Tristan Engelstad will be the first of the AMs. He'll start 7th with Alexander Davidson leading pro out there in 8th position. John Lloyd and Jan Dufner will round out the top 10 with Anders Mira there in 11th and 12th belonging to Leander Gabrielsen. Phil Samways and Jana Schultain are 13th and 14th with Jack Osborne and Arthur Thurtle on row 8. Row 9 sees Ivan Turnison and Michael Gray as your top 20. Rounds out with the Fry Guys Motorsport 42 of Aidan Carter and the Altitude Frame Esports car of Dennis Grabowski. You then got William Guthrie and Axel Slijepcevic. You then follow with Michael Evdoka, who is there in 23rd, and Akos Shenteski. Aidan Young, Lucas Prada, Ross McFarlane, Jack Sedgwick, Harrison Crowther and James Boumet. Your top 6 as they were in reverse order, then find themselves through. On the bubble was Jacques Eva for Epic Sim Racing. He had that massive hit on the opening lap with Paul Smith, as David Baker and Simon Andre Livingston 32nd and 33rd. Jaco van der Ligt is 34th with Dean Timms and Howard Hassan on row 18. That will then lead to Gianni Terhair and Joe Newman on row 19 as Ben Bennyworth and Benjamin Gregory make it an all-Ben 20th row of the grid. Eric Hartman and Adam Watson have row 21 with Colin Sansom, Jesse Payne-Wilkins and Owen Neve making 45, meaning drivers such as Paul Smith, for example, will elect to sit out race number 2 here tonight. Of course, you wouldn't blame Paul for doing so with the hurt that he's got with his wisdom tooth at the moment. Now, in stim time, it's leading towards 4 o'clock, a 26-degree track temperature, still on the cool side here at Aragon, but of course we are in March. It's normally when you get to sort of June, July, August that you get the spiraling temperatures of the 40 and 50 degrees around here.
Yeah, so we'll see how quick these temperatures decide to fall. This area kind of reminds me of the Midwest here in the United States where, yeah, it's great in the daytime when it's 60, 70 degrees, but once that sun starts to go down, it gets cooler and cooler pretty quickly. So it'll be interesting to see how we fare out throughout this race.
Trying to get those temperatures into the tyres then as they weave aggressively out of 7, down over the crest here to 8 and 9. Now, the Saka Korchos, I think, has proven to be tough as you go through the right into the left. It's the drive off the exit through turn 10, Mark Marquez and 11, that has underratedly caught out drivers, because you can have understeer, and especially on cold tyres, you can have a lot of oversteers. You can see how dusty the circuit is.
It's quite dusty still, and we saw the mayhem in the first couple of corners, so hopefully once they get to the Sacacheros, I should say, that they will get things straightened out. It looks like all that dust is offline, so good for drivers who decide to take a wider line coming out of Marc Marquez, but not so good for those who are side by side with one another. They'll have some dirty tires here a little bit early on as we work our way down the long back straightaway. You see how these cars are trying to fare and get everything situated for the second 45-minute race.
So, Vidal in control. There are drivers who are out of position here. So we note that Luca Tingor ran out of fuel in race 1 to get himself back into this position. We know Alexander Davidson was shuffled out early and ran into troubles. Jan Dufner found his troubles. Mira had himself his spin on turn 2 and basically tried to prioritise a race 2 out of it. And so you're turning around and saying, well, if you're going to be looking around in the top 10, There are drivers who can make great progress quickly, but it can very easily be a Venus flytrap in the sense that the jaws will clench on whoever is there in the middle, and they're going to have to be very alert to how the pace is going to be running as they set themselves up for this push in race number 2 of tonight, round 7 of this championship. And what a mega run we are expecting here for 45 minutes. This first lap is going to be the tone setter here of round 7, and with Tommy Vidal in control, he will leave a big gap for the BMW M2 pace car to go and hit pit lane. A big old jump from Tommy. He gets a wonderful start compared to Josh Boot, and he is off and away with a canter over towards turn number 1. Big brakes into this early section. Expect drivers to try and funnel 3 or 4 wide. We do have a spinner in the back. I'm not quite sure who's been caught up there, but it's a massive hit as it has gone through for Axel Slijepcevic, who is on the back, and there's more dramas because we've got one across the middle of the road out there at the moment. Turtle is one that's turned around, and there's 5 cars off between turns 3 and 4.
Mayhem and calamity early on in this race. Tommy Fast still holding on to the lead. Of course, Thingo tried to close in on Boot. It's Porsche on Porsche. I mean Audi as Grabowski gets a meatball, so his race start not to where he wants. As you see behind him, you got Ben Cullen, Taylor Lane, one of your first pros, Alexander Davidson sitting there in 6th place. Of course, Davidson had a late race black flag, so watch for him to get up near the front as well. Mira staying out of trouble. Dean Tim's falling down through the order, so already a lot going on. Slijepcevic with the first spin around there in his Mustang.
Yeah, he got a tag, and there's nothing he could do except wait for the back of the crew before he could start going out there, being aggressive again and getting this opening lap sorted. We've got side by side in the bottom corner now. Arthur Thurtle, he's got nowhere to go, and he gets turned across the nose then as he goes through. Mira looking for moves on Engelstad. Davidson and Taylor Lane as well going at it for position, but Jack Osborne there back across the circuit, and then he finds 2 more. That's where Grabowski gets caught up in the middle of it, and he's left with nowhere to go. 1 lap score complete. Vidal, then it's Josh Boot, then Luca Tingor in 3rd. Cullen, Davidson, Lane and Mira, your top 7. Progress being made. One of the best starters in that field was Akos Shenteski. He's gone from 24th to 15th on the opening lap. Watch out for the Hymo Setups car.
It's absolutely fantastic to see his second race in the series actually looking pretty good, but either way, Josh Boot tried to hold off. The thing goes, they work their way through, heading towards Mark Marquez, and it'll happen in just a little bit, but Davidson now climbing up the order, so you're going to start to see some knocking there for this battle for second. It's going to be the pro, Alexander Davidson, who's going to work his way up through the field, and Mira just stuck back there. Actually, now that I say that, he's up to 6th place.
Yeah, pushing away through there by Taylor Lane, the Misfits racing car. Not much can do. Wide goes Mira, and he's going to have to be careful about running too wide like that, because that's just going to allow the Misfits racing car to go and slip back through down on the inside. Engelstad, the leading am at the moment, with John Lloyd directly behind him in that battle, is also going to be somewhat worth considering out there in the early goings. Vidal with a 2nd in the back pocket. Davidson the biggest threat at the moment near the front of the field. Here comes the look to the inside. Mira's stuck on the outside. He'll look at Engelstad. That is an am on the driver who walked into today as championship leader. Wonderful stuff to see.
No, it really is. And, it just goes to show that some of these drivers, they're looking for the promotion, so they're doing the best that they can to get that I rating higher and higher. And how you do that? Well, you race with some of the best here in iRacing, toe-to-toe, as Engelstad demotes Mira to that 8th place. But Mira, he's still not trying to, let him go off that easy. He's right under that rear wing. It's BMW on BMW. Grabowski, you see the incident that happened with him as he is dead stuck. Oh, that's just not very good when you see, Colin Sampson basically go right through the car.
Well, if this was the real world, there would be no Colin Sampson 911 Porsche out there. It would be tough to try and navigate through and deal with, and I'm just looking around at drivers who are trying to make moves here. Harrison Crowther has tried to stay with James Boumet. He's got through on him. Ross McFarlane directly behind them. So the two championship protagonists now with Anders Mira, who is up there at the moment in 8th place. That's going to be where they're looking. Tingor and Boot then seeing a little bit of a switch there, a little bit of blinking, I think, from that as they will run down the hill critically, and then it's going to be a little plateauing as they get to the final corner, and there'll be a slight rise through this final section. So you're always trying to be on the limit of grip out there. Those tyres will scream on the right-hand side. It will be very much a case of just imagine you're oval racing with a couple of extra steps.
Yep, that's a good way of putting it. As Sansom runs into more trouble. Oh, not sure who ended up punting him right there as he was going around. But either way, not a good couple of laps to remember for the 911. And Sansom, who we normally see kind of trying to fight through the front, just having a rough go of it here. Aragón, I'm sure he can't wait get that car back at Miller and end up getting ready for next week. Alexander Davidson also closing in on Vingo once again for that bottom step of the overall podium. Of course, Davidson, your leader in the pro category, but I've got to say this, I got to hand it to the top three because they are actually looking pretty good here in the pro-am categories. They are holding their own, and Tommy Fast is really opening up that gap as well.
It's about 1.3 at the moment. Out of the Sacacorchos they go. Ben Cullen then for effect simulations by the looks of it with his colours on the car. He will be another driver looking to try and jump up with Taylor Lane there with the likes behind as well of Tristan Engelstad and Anders Mira. Mira can't get by the Swede here. Here comes the move though for third. Alexander Davidson picking up the run, and the Adidas by WSR car again gets the clearance, makes the move, comfortably jumps up into third position, and so we'll now be eyeing up Josh Boot's Empire car as they now run by. Taylor Lane here watches out. That's Engelstad trying to attack, and Mira, eyes bigger than the belly, nowhere to go, is going to have to think, is it outside or inside? He's all over the outside curve in towards turn number 1 here. He's going to have to get the inside for the next two. He's slightly pushed wide by Engelstad. He'll get back into line, command the apex, take the place.
Engelstad really having a good opening stanza of this race as he makes his way and tries to battle Anders Mira, but Mira has his sights set on Taylor Lane for that 6th spot. Lane getting held up by Cullen as Lane goes just a little bit wide through here, and either way the Aston Martin gets that opening. Here comes Mira for 6th place. He's gonna dive. Yeah, that was a very bold move out of the BMW drivers. He just shoves them off just a little bit, and they're still neck and neck headed down the straightaway towards the 8-9 complex.
Oh, and behind that as well, Phil Samway's getting ahead of steam. He gets by John Lloyd with a lovely move. So Mira, who sat himself down, couldn't quite get it on Taylor Lane. Now he needs the drive, and the BMW here, this is where the balance of performance is tough right now for the Beamers. They're not the quickest car out there. You need a little bit of help in them. Gabrielson also behind there, side by side, trying to get by John Lloyd. That'll put him up into the top 10, but he's got no slipstream to help. Meanwhile, for second, Alexander Davidson getting another move done. Then as he goes by Josh Boot, now he'll only have Tommy Vidal to go and chase, and he will look behind and go, well, where's my nearest rivals? From those in the top 3, Jack Sedgwick currently the best of those at the moment. He's 16th. At this point in time, look at them climb over the crest. Lane and Mira going absolutely for it, blow by blow into turn 1. Lane takes the outside line, and Lane has a great battle out there. Mira is stuck.
He really is, and of course you mentioned that Sedgwick in 16th, well, he's up 1 to 15th as he's gotten around Lucas Prada, trying to close in on Shaltine as they work their way. We're watching this battle for position here into 3, now through 4, and heading up towards 5. That's a little bit of a bump there. Taylor Lane saying, if you want to pass me, you're going to have to work your ass off for it, and indeed he does, and that gives Engelstad a chance to go in as we got more debris kicked off. But either way, Mira just cannot find a way to keep Engelstad behind him or get around Cullen.
Oh, this is getting busy here. Engelstad runs a bit wide. This is going to give Mira a mega run going through, and he will pick the pocket of Taylor Lane through Mark Marquez. That is some great heads-up driving by Anders Mira. Gabrielson is there. Behind that, you've got Young, Samways, and Lloyd. Aiden Youngs could be a threat here in this race. Everywhere you look out there in this group, there are 2s and 3s and 4s all going at it, and we could be 3 wide on the straight between Engelstad through the middle here of Lane and Mira. This is brilliant here in towards the final corners here at Aragón. Oh my word, what tenacity from Taylor. Lane still holds the margin over Anders Mira. This is insane stuff.
Oh, Mira's going to have the line going into turn 1, but does Lane have the courage to go around the outside? He still does, as he's going to shove it around the inside through turn number 2. Give Taylor Lane 6th place. And again, this isn't for a class position. This is for overall position. Mira finally dispatches of Taylor Lane, but Gabrielson also closes in that Lamborghini. And this is going to be a battle not only for overall position, but 2nd place in the pro category, as you see Gabrielson all over the back of Mira for 6th place. And this is exactly what the Lamborghini driver wanted. He wanted to go mano-a-mano against the point leader going into this race. And this is absolutely fantastic stuff. If you don't like this, get your head checked, because this is fantastic racing.
Look at the damage on Ross McFarlane in the 127. The front is completely caved in for the Scot, and he is going to drop mega points here in this race. So he's going to be someone who is going to need that car to do something very special to get back into this one. Maybe an early stop. It could be the key to the castle at the moment. Watch out for the race lead though soon, because Davidson has got the gap down to 1/10 of a second here at the front through the long carousel, and he will be eyeing up Tommy Vidal and Alexander Davidson. He doesn't have many chances. He misses. Jacques Eva has had a spin that found him in trouble, and I also know Akos Shenteski out of the race. The Hungarian are looking to turn 1. Is nothing there at the moment for him, but Alexander Davidson is just trying to eye up this pass.
And that's what he wants. He doesn't need to make it right away, because there's plenty of gap between he and the Mira Gabrielson battle for the 2nd place in the pro class. But Davidson, the highest place of the pro drivers right now. You've got all 3 classes that they're leaders in the top 10, all due to the invert. Would not be surprised to see him try something around the inside, headed down towards the carousel. That seems to be where the 55 is at its strongest for this race. A little too far away to make anything happen through the Sacacheros, but still through Mark Marquez. That's going to be a good setup as you see the battle for 8th place between Young and Engelstad. Look at Engelstad. How do you like that, as he tries to hold off Young? Isn't able to. Behind them, you've got Sedgwick also in position between he and Aiden Carter. Carter still holding off Sedgwick for the time being as they work their way down the back straightaway. Carter didn't see how good Sedgwick was this past time by, and really doesn't care, as you see Carter taking the German machine down the back straightaway. Sedgwick going to force the issue down into the carousel.
Well, Jungle Jack deciding that he is going to cut down some lumber here in this race. He knows how good of a passer he is in races like these. He dispatches and moves up into the top 10 with that. And for the lead again, Tommy Vidal's got the legs against Alexander Davidson and holds on. Ben Cullen down the inside of Tingor. That's a pass for 4th place and for 3rd in class. So Ben Cullen now getting himself involved at the moment, doing well. In fact, I got Ben Cullen down as an AM out there on our graphics. He's down as a pro-AM. So for the moment, I think Ben Cullen's an AM, and he's leading AM out there at this point in time. And he's having some wonderful racing here at this point, as he is trying to really scrap it out with Tingor for position, and they're doing well. They've got Mira, they've got Gabrielson, Young's going to be arriving soon, Sedgwick as well. Everybody in the train is trying to find a way here, and Tommy Vidal, this is going to be a very tough half an hour from this point onwards to try and hold this race lead.
Also, we had some contact back there with Lucas Prada, and I believe it was Taylor Lane into turn 1. Of course, Boomy now climbing his way up into the standings. He is 13th in the number 1 Falcon Mercedes as they work their way down the back straightaway once again. Let's see if Davidson has anything for Tommy Vidal as he pokes his nose to the inside, and he will go side by side. So long, see you later. Alexander Davidson, your leader overall and in pro, as Vidal decides discretion is the better part of battle, and still has the lead in Pro-Am, but absolutely fantastic to see Tommy Fast lead for the first 15 minutes of this race.
Yeah, he did a great job of building himself a margin. The issue he had, Alexander Davidson started too high up. He started in P8. Mira and Tingor, they changed the position then, as they will get then the pass sorted then for 5th place out there. Anders Mira needs as many points as he can. He's not had a great week here today at Aragón, and he'll know it'll be a lot tougher in 7 days' time. So everybody getting back into the swing of things here. A good time, I reckon, here to go and check on this group right now that's continuing here. Ben Cullen in 4th position. You've got Mira 5th, Tingor there in 6th position, and Gabrielson in 7th, who is just watching on and waiting for an opportunity to get involved in this at this stage. Down the hill through the Sacacorchos, and now into Marc Marquez. You start looking around here and saying, Anders Mira here needs to be the hot knife. He needs to jump through, and he needs to start working, because he'll be looking around at what Alexander Davidson's doing, Josh Boot is doing, and realizing, I probably want 2nd.
Yeah, and of course, Mira trying to do all he can to get around Ben Cullen for position. He just cannot dispatch him. We see the battle for 10th between Prada, Carter, Ingolstadt, Boomy, all right there. There goes your championship defender, Boomy, going around the inside. 3 wide for position as they try and make it work the best they can. I think that's going to be 2 and 1 for Boomy as he works his way up to 11th. Prada able to open up a little bit bigger gap, but you know what? When you see those Falcon colors in your back mirror, you start to think, well, how much longer until he gets bigger and bigger?
Well, those colours are critical out there, and he's, of course, not got his teammate today in Nikolai Pedersen, who will have to serve the qualifying ban when he comes back, be it at the next rounds of the championship at Adelaide, and so he gets by Aiden Carter. There are some very quick drivers there at that Falcon team, drivers like Reese and Lewis Wood, who are lightning fast in those colours, and he proves every single time just how good James Boumet is, making that team switch and trying to go with it. Prada is the driver directly in front. You've then got Sedgwick, Young, Gabrielson there, Tingor and Cullen. They're all there. I'll tell you what, Ben Cullen's doing a really good effort out there at this point in time. It's tough to be at the front, and it's one thing to get placed up there, it's another thing to stay there.
It really is, and you know, Cullen, for all that it's worth, look at how long it took him to keep Anders Mira behind him. That's absolutely fantastic, and you got to give a tip of the cap to him, but still Mira able to find his way through, and that's how you win championships and stay in contention for them, especially some of the best drivers in GT. Jack Sedgwick drafting off of Aiden Young, going to look to the inside there, and Young, all he could do is just sit there and watch it happen. Young with the late break going into the carousel. Oh my, this is absolutely fantastic stuff as the WSR Corvette tries to hold off the fast Jack Sedgwick.
Well, Aiden Young is, you could argue with that Corvette, the last of the late breakers. Now, a black flag penalty then for Dean Timms. That would have been on pit exit, as he is now back out onto circuit, so that will certainly hurt him in terms of this run. But Tingor now back into 7th position here as Gabrielson has gone through. Now watch out there, because Young's on the offensive against Tingor, and they're going to be 3 wide here as Jack Sedgwick tries to work through turn 6. Pings back to the inside for 7. Young going the long way around at turn 7. Leaves the door open for Sedgwick down to the Sacacorchos here. And so this is where you start wondering, how much can I attack without being attacked around here? This is all about placement here on a layout like this one.
Well, Aiden Young spent the first couple of rounds trying to figure out how to race here at, the World GT Championship, and really he's come out of his own the past couple of rounds as you're watching Sedgwick out of the driver's side door, watching waiting for that Corvette to pop out, and I think that he's going to wait till the last second. Young is just oh so good at waiting till the last minute to get on the brakes and pounce. Now he's going to make that pass on Thingo on the inside, and he's going to bring Sedgwick with him as they go through the carousel. Sedgwick, though, not going to make anything happen. As you see, Aiden Young closing in. Gabrielson goes around Ben Cullen as well. Down the pit straight they go. Let's see what happens to Sedgwick. He's going to take a poke to the inside. Does he try to go for the late break? He's going to make an attempt, but I think he's going to be thwarted by this battle that's ahead of him. No, he's not, as Sedgwick gets up there. What a fantastic move, but Young is going to battle back as well.
Oh, this is brilliant here. Aiden Young's on the outside for 4 and 5. He's going to push him off wide. Sedgwick's going to keep his foot in, though, for 4 and 5. Look at Tingle down the inside. Oh, what a pass. Then as they go through, it opened the door up for Lucas Prada to get in. James Boumet now in the mix. The best of the best are now suddenly deciding they're not going to just, dink and dive out there. They are throwing haymakers at Aragón.
God, how do you like it? Do you like it like a Daytona prototype race? As Samways gets a black flag. I'm not sure if he was coming into the pits or not. But you see Boomy and Young both going neck and neck as well for position still. And you see Young behind the defending series champion. That's given Prada a chance to close in on Sedgwick. Sedgwick closing in on Thingo as well down the back straightaway. So everybody deciding that this is going to be elbows out racing in the second third of this 45-minute race.
Here we go, 3 wide it's going to be. Tingle's on the outside here. It falls back to 2. Prada later on the brakes, though, will still get the pass. Sedgwick will follow on through. That's 7th, 8th and 9th out there. They've allowed Gabrielson and Cullen a little bit of reprieve for the moment. Mira's got his eyes on Josh Boot, who's driven magnificently in 3rd position. And I note as well, Alexander Davidson is only 1.2 seconds down the road from Tommy Vidal. Tommy's done really well to hold. Another look at this. Sedgwick's pushed out. He tries to get to the inside, and they all left the door open for Luca Tingle. What a move.
Yeah, Tingo taking advantage of everybody else, realizing, hey, you know what? I'm going to race with everybody else. And Tingo's like, thank you very much. I'm just going to take this place right here. So he's in a great position to finish on the podium for Pro-Am for the time being. Of course, Aiden Carter sitting back there just a little bit further. But I've got to say this. If Josh Boot, who we did check in the points, is a Pro-Am, if he can close in on Tommy Fast, which is easier said than done, that's going to make that race for the Pro-Am lead just a little bit more interesting, as you see Anders Mira trying to close in on Josh Boot.
Yeah, so they're continuing on. It is worth noting that Ross McFarlane did make a pit stop. I don't know whether he took full service or not, Jeremy. If he took full service with his pit stop out there, that's going to be critical, because as they sit, they've got 1 fast repair, so that would have kept him in this one. Mira straight to the inside. Josh Boot not fighting it there in the Empire car. He knows his race is not with Mira here today. Harrison Crowther a little bit further back here in 6D. He's now looking down the inside of William Guthrie for position, and we'll get there. Jan Dufner now gets a black flag, and that one is also for the instant point limit.
Barlow with a 10-6 pit stop, so I don't think it was a full-service pit stop. If it was, he probably short-filled and took the fast repair, so we'll see how that works out. And if he's doing the deep undercut, which kind of makes me scratch my head, as now you see more and more drivers come into the pits. Boomy is into the pits. Hartman, Vanderlith, they're deciding to answer the call now to get out of this wild traffic. Sedgwick trying to do all he can to get around Cullen. And I'll tell you what, for moves of the race, you got to take a serious look at everything Sedgwick has done here, not only in this race, but in the last race.
Well, it's a case of normally you only see one move out there. He's had about a dime a dozen out there at this point, the way he's been going about it. Wide, though, is Sedgwick, and he can't get himself the run he wants. And look at him, he's going to cut back underneath and get the chance here on Ben Cullen, and he'll be followed through by Lucas Prada then in his AMG Mercedes. He's going to look to push the Evo straight through, and he's going to know that he wants that Aston Martin to get by. He needs the pace, he needs to get the clearance. They've got the clearance needed. Now they can start thinking about, well, do I help or do I go for a move myself? Late move across to the right-hand side. Cedric's got it scouted. Behind that, though, Aiden Carter having to deal with Luca Tingle out there. I thought that was quite wise by James Boume to pit when he did, because this group, I could do one of two things: behave or not.
Yeah, get out of traffic, get out there, run some clean laps, and try and make yourself up there. Of course, he gets out in front of Ross McFarlane. So we'll see if the pit strategy for the 1 and the 127 works to plan for them. And now Sedgwick sets his sights on Leander Gabrielson for third in class, 5th overall. And I give it a couple laps before Sedgwick actually catches up with the Lamborghini.
Well, with that in mind, you start wondering where people are going to cycle out with their stops. We expect them to be within the next 5 minutes or so for the majority of this field. And so with them all eyeing up those final stops of the race, I would turn my attention here. Of course, you've got Prada's battle here for around that top 10. This is a race of 2 at the front. Tommy Vidal has not let go of Alexander Davidson, and that will be a concern for the Scot in the number 55.
And that's why we call him Tommy Fast. To close in once again, 3 to 4 car lengths. The gap there, that was a little wiggle out of Davidson going into the carousel. That was something you don't normally see out of Davidson, as he's trying to keep the Pro-Am leader right behind him. You see the gap, 0.8 of a second separating the two of them. What's the lap time for him? 33.6 to a 33.7, so he is keeping pace. Aiden Young trying to get in that top 10 as we see a late diver into pit road. Poor Dennis Grabowski. He's just having a season to forget here as he makes the spin, and it's going to go right into the wall. A little bit of heavy contact. Prada was the driver who decided to answer the call into the pit, so Grabowski's race for the most part, yeah, he takes the toe to the pit, so essentially it is done and dusted for Grabowski.
There's a 3-word saying out there that you can use for Dennis Grabowski, and it's "good night, sweet prince," I guess is the way that you'd have to describe an incident like that. Very tough to go and deal with, and he knows how difficult that this race has been for him, and actually getting to grips with the Aston Martin over the course of build as this has gone. Now, this is Aiden Young here, who is currently in 7th. This was his move then down the inside as he was looking to try and get this pass done. So he gets the move, he's there on the curb. It was very nice and accomplished there on the pass, and you can't really ask for too much more. It was Lucas Prada, by the way, who came down into pit lane, and James Boume, by comparison, was 6 seconds ahead of Ross McFarlane by the time he came out of the pit. Prada, by the way, is about the equidistant gap McFarlane to Boume is the way that he finds himself ahead of that directly on the road. So Prada, effectively the best of those who have pitted so far in this race. Keep that in note as they make their way towards the end once more. 3-car train is now Aiden Carter. Tries to get the Fry Guys Motorsports car close, and he's got a very busy calendar as Aiden. He's in the British Sim Racing Cup, which will be running tomorrow. So Aiden into pit, and now he'll be looking at his focus on his one and only stop with 18 minutes left.
That'll be a fun race to cover as I hop on the headset as well tomorrow for that, as Gabrielson now has a whole bunch of Sedgwick in his mirrors once again, and we'll see if Sedgwick goes crazy to try and get around for position. Of course, Gabrielson quite well so far, running in 5th overall, 3rd in the pro class, and it's going to be harder to get around Gabrielson because we've seen a lot of brilliance out of this the number 7 driver as they work their way towards the 8-9 complex. But Sedgwick, what a race he's had. Of course, he's had to come through the back because he was the unfortunate benefactor of the 30 car invert, but still that Aston Martin has been nothing but hooked up these past couple of laps.
Yeah, and he's needed to be hooked up. He's needed to find places. A few AMs in, Ben Bennyworth, Benjamin Gregory, Howard Hassan, they're all making service out there at this point. This is where you get the beneficiary of the run here at Aragón. As here in northern Spain, here comes the move. Left-hand side for Jack Sedgwick. It's going to be a comfortable pass on Gabrielson there in the Lamborghini. And his Huracan can't really do too much to fend off what is being dealt with at this moment in time. No takers then on this lap from any one of the top 5, as they are quite happy with the way that they are going about business. There are two takers coming in then off the back, William Guthrie and Tristan Engelstad, who is the leader of AMS.
So great time to pit for a lot of these drivers. Would not be surprised to see the next couple of laps another flurry of pros and pro-ams as Engelstad comes down on his marks, and he will start his pit stop. And we'll see how long it's going to take for the BMW to just do a gas and go. And we're seeing a lot of that. And I'm kind of surprised, Jake, because we got notes that the right side tires were just burning up, but drivers are keeping them on for the full 45-minute race for the most part.
Yeah, because the burning cycle of it, normally you'd expect to try and double stint a stack of tyres if you're going for it all the way. That would be 2 hours normally you could get out of a set of tyres on a double stack. So you'd imagine that 45 minutes seems pretty easy out there to go and do. What you've got to be worried about, though, is that extra heat cycle you put in from being slow to trying to get the run off and driving again. Harrison Crowther now looking for a pass. This is on Luca Tingor. This will be for 9th position out there at this point. And so you're thinking about, can I go and get this? It's Porsche versus Aston Martin. Now, to note that Porsche is normally a very slippery car. In comes your leaders then, Davidson, Vidal. I think this is a case of, right, everyone on deck, you've got to get down into lane, because that is absolutely everyone down in on the lane.
This is going to be a race off pit road as Tommy Fast is going to be the one at the pointy end for the time being, as Davidson's on his marks. And you see Gabrielson on his march. Sedgwick also there. Let's see who comes out first. It's going to be a race to the line. Who gets it? It's going to be Davidson for the time being, and indeed he is, as it's going to be a long pit stop for Tommy Vidal, 13.9. And now we see Mira finally in that third position, and it only had to take him to get out of pit road as Cedric gets ahead of Gabrielson.
Look at Prada. Look at Prada on the exit. He might jump them both here. Lucas Prada with Gabrielson and Sedgwick. He's got one, but I don't think he's got the other out there. There we get the pictures of it then. So Gabrielson immediately aggressive, but Lucas Prada has been able to stay with Jack Sedgwick out there in that group. Aiden Young ahead of James Boumet then after the stop. And so Boumet, he's got positions, but against those pros who he was up against who pitted later, he got nothing.
Prada doing his best to catch up to Sedgwick, which is easier said than done as the battle for the podium. It heats up, and I've got to ask, Jake, it's been a long time since we've had a Pro-Am driver, or really anyone other than a pro driver, in the overall podium. Tommy Vidal living up to his nickname, Tommy Fast here.
He is, and he's done so from pole position, which affords you a really good opportunity if you can construct the race. I think what's been really critical is it's been very heavily fought behind through every position. You look around, Tommy's got a great pace. The one thing that belies Tommy out there as Prada continues to stay close here, as Young gets overtaken by James Boumet. Andy Scheel in trouble. The black and orange mechanical flag showing for 007, he's out.
Yeah, so a rough couple of races for Scheel as he's got to come in, and yeah, he's done for the day. Taylor and Charlie gets that wiped away, but back on. But either way, Sedgwick just driving insane in the membrane. And Crowther sitting back there in 10th. He's got to hold off Ben Cullen and Tristan Engelstad if he wants to stay within that top 10. And really, Engelstad and Cullen showing quite well so far this race, as they were racing up near the front due to that 30 car invert. But Crowther, if he wants to make sure to keep that AM leader Cullen behind him, but Cullen also wants to try and get away from him to keep Engelstad behind him, because that's also right there the battle for the AM lead between the Mercedes and the BMW.
So I just want to note a bit of housekeeping. Ross McFarlane has had to make a second pit stop. He's going to be really suffering then in this second race, and the only driver out of the top three in the championship who has had two good races is the guy with the number 1 on this car, James Boumet, and that could be critical late on in this season when points will mean everything. The battle for 4th is on the top of your screen right now as Prada tries to get by Sedgwick but can't get there. In fact, we'll put it to full screen at the moment. McFarlane back down in 31st position. But yes, the battle here of Cullen versus Engelstad is a really important one because they have got, I would say, miles out there before they reach Jana Schulte all the way back in 24th.
And of course, that's great for them because they can fight tooth and nail. You see Engelstad back there. And of course, you also see the battle between Thingo and Guthrie. That is another battle of consequences. That is a battle for who's going to finish 3rd in the Pro-Am classes. Aiden Carter, 9th place. They doesn't have to worry about whether or not they're going to have to really defend too hard. So you've got a couple of battles of consequence here in this bottom part of the screen as Cullen doing all he can to keep Engelstad behind him.
Yeah, Tristan Engelstad has shown that he's got a lot of great prowess on his overtaking. He makes it very, very difficult. Tingle can't quite get his line that he wants, as now Sedgwick needs to run on the top of your screen to run away again. Now you've got William Guthrie in play here, the Northern Irishman Pro-Am out there really trying to settle down and get it to run, and knowing that every time he gets this drive, he needs to make sure that they pilot through Marc Marquez. Go on board on the bottom of your screen. Up top, Prada waits and looks to try and find something comfortable for him to go in. In fact, they're pushing because they want to get to Anders Mira here, or the car in front potentially is the pick, which is there in front. So that's what they're looking at. Maybe also worth noting as well, with 10 minutes to go, they're trying to push to keep cars away like Gabrielson and Boumet.
Of course, that's going to be easier said than done, especially now that they have those fresh tires. You see the flash of the lights from Gabrielson to keep, to let the slow driver ahead, I should say, know that they are coming with a full head of steam. Taking a look at the lap times, I think it's going to be easier said than done for Gabrielson and Boumet to keep up with Sedgwick and Prada, but they're going to do their best. So we have under 10 minutes to go. Of course, anything can happen as Prada looking around, trying to see if he can make anything happen on Sedgwick, which not many drivers have said they've been able to pass the Aston Martin. Here comes Guthrie trying to hold off Thingo as the battle for the Pro-Am 3rd place rages on once again. Guthrie has a position for now, but for how long?
Tingle's going to lose out, and there's the drive half defense shown. You don't need to defend here at the Sacacorchos. Here to hold steady, well done, and down through this right-left, the big drop out there on this circuit, a little reminiscent of the corkscrew over at Laguna Seca, but only in memory of the drop, nowhere near the steepness of it. But again, you are starting to note here that late position changes are point changes out there, and every driver is eyeing up a point. As for 4th, it's going to be there side by side. Boumet gets another one. This time he sides through Gabrielson.
It's no surprise, Boumet really showing pace here in the closing minutes of this race. He's 2 seconds behind this Prada-Sedgwick battle that you see there. And you saw the Prada try to look to the outside of Sedgwick. Sedgwick shut the front door on him coming into turn number 1. And oh no, we're starting to see a blinking out of Gabrielson. So we'll see if he can hopefully get that righted before the end of the race with a great showing from him so far. But Boumet trying to open up that gap so he can catch up to Gabrielson, to this, I should say, to Prada, this Prada-Sedgwick battle there that you see on the top part of your screen.
Yeah, so there are drivers all looking to hold themselves steady now. They know that with 7.5, it's about buying your ticket to the end of this race, getting the chance to score those points and getting on the express train, knowing how critical it is. Look at how aggressive you've got to be over the curb. Wiggle there from Jack Sedgwick. Now that is going to invite Lucas Prada here, the Czechian, to go and say, look, I might want to just take this place away from you.
Of course, it's going to be easier said than done, as we've all mentioned. Prada, we know how quick he is, as Grabowski finally gets the meatball flag, so that'll be basically game, set, match for the altitude-free Aston Martin. And now you see Prada closing in, Sansom with a black flag, Guthrie still trying to hold off for position. It's all over the place here, Aragón, with 6 3/4 minutes left to go. And I've got to say this, we're setting up for another barn burner finish, even if the leaders are gapped apart.
That's also Axel Slijepcevic, who hits 18 incident points and will get a drive-through penalty for his troubles, and they are going to be in a real sore spot out there here late on, knowing they've got to make one last trundle down the pit lane. Fourth on the top of your screen, Engelstad holding himself wonderfully in the middle of this, with Ben Cullen just in front, Guthrie there. Tingor then is just a little bit too far back as far as it goes. Howard Hassan, 3 drivers in a lap.
You know what, things are not as crazy this time as they were last time, but you're still seeing drivers hit their incident limit points as this battle for the 3rd position in Pro-Am between Guthrie and Thingo looking pretty good so far as they're side by side. Once again, Guthrie trying around the inside. Gonna be easier said than done. That's a shove as John Lloyd makes it number 4.
Yep, another drive-through penalty. There are a number of drivers out there. We won't name who, but there is a slew on 15 incidents, on 16, on 17, where you think late in this race, you've used all your points up, you've got nothing left out there, and so everyone's going to be very nervous making these moves, leave a little bit more space. Prada finally uncorks the pass to the inside. They've got Boume at 1.3 seconds behind. I think Prada looked at it and went, Jack, you fought with him in race 1, go fight him again.
Yeah, Prada knows it's game time for him. It's 5 minutes left to go, and Boume keeps getting bigger and bigger, but Sedgwick is not going to let him off that easy as he closes in on that back bumper coming around turn number 2. He's going to be too far to make something happen, but corner after corner, I think Sedgwick is going to reel in Prada, but Boume looms large coming around the circuit.
So there you think Lucas Prada can have a chance to run away. James Boume then, as he works towards turn 7, out here on track, he is lining this up. His eyes are going to be wide. He is hoping that there's going to be more fight back here from Jack Sedgwick. He's a very experienced sim racer, is Jack. He will know what the goal of this race is going to be for him. He'll want 4th, and he'll try and win with the best scenario of 4th place that he can. He's had a great points all day today. I think it's the first time we've seen this season here, Jeremy, Jack Sedgwick have a complete race meeting.
Yeah, exactly. This is absolutely fantastic for the Aston Martin driver. He has looked really good, and of course, Sedgwick up 23 spots from his grid position. Boume about the only highest climber, 24, and I take that back. Watson up 26 points from 16th, and once again, Sedgwick looks to the inside, thinks better of it, but as we know, Jake, it's that time when the sands of the hourglass slowly disappear. So Sedgwick does not have many more opportunities, except some of the lapped out cars. Samson going to go to the inside and let the faster cars go around.
Yeah, wise decision there from Colin, knowing that you've got 3 very, very hungry sim racers looking to try and jump on through them at this stage. It is currently, in terms of manufacturer, Mercedes, Aston Martin, Mercedes in this battle that you see right now through into turn number 5. They've still got to clear Howard Hassan. That's the next worry that they've got to deal with. It's where they catch him, and he pulls over heading to turn 7, and so that will be 1, 2, 3 going through. Boume now very clearly within a second here with not too long left in this race. This is the biggest scrap inside of your top 10. Cullen still holding the AM division ahead of Engelstad at this point in time, as Tingle's coming back in that, but for the moment, for the honours of last spot on the podium in Pro, it's all about Prada, Sedgwick and James Boume.
It's going to be a matter of if Boumé can catch him, how long does it take for him to try and make a move? As Davidson closing in on that white flag. He won't get it this time by, but possibly next time by. As you see this battle for third really raging on through the carousel, as once again they go single file, line of start. But here's the thing, Boumé really closing in. It'll be 2 laps to go for Davidson as he just crosses the line.
Yep, so with 2 to go, they're going to have to be eyeing up a sense of, okay, it's not quite what we need just yet. We need to keep resolute. We need to make sure we're still painting between the lines. We need to make sure the concentration levels don't drop. I would turn and look at these drivers. They are going to be on it. It's like having thumbtack all around you in your seat, hoping that you're not just going to sit down. It's going to be very painful. At this point, you'd probably look around at these drivers. They are that switched on, that focused, looking around at what they can do in a race like this, and they will be line astern through turn 7, over to Sakakorchos corner at this point. This has been a round 7 where it's all down to the final stages. It's all down to who wants an extra couple points. Those couple points by the end of the season could be a difference maker. Such has been the or I would say the closeness of this championship so far.
I think a lot of these drivers are too far away for any sort of draft, so Prada can take probably a little bit of a deep breath, but I don't think Sedgwick can, as Boumé gets a better run coming out of Marc Marquez, and we'll see if he can, and he knows it too, because Sedgwick playing the defensive line, and Prada's gonna go. We're going to force Boumé all the way to the outside, but I think he's going to be the last of the late breakers. Oh, man, I got to say this. They're dancing on the edge, nearly running into each other. Last lap is underway, and Sedgwick having to hold off Boumé, shoves him to the outside. Sedgwick has the line once again, and the race is afoot to see who's going to be on the bottom step of the podium.
Yep, door had to be opened up there from James Boumé. Nothing he could do about it. Sedgwick used all the road and said, you're not getting through like that. You'll have to try again on the final lap of this race. This has been one where you're just looking at how they finished. Tommy's giving a really good chase late, but I think he's going to run out of time because he's got the gap down to 2.1, 2.2 seconds at this moment. He's chased a second in the last 5 minutes. But it is all about these three at the moment, these Musketeers, as it is going to be Prada, Sedgwick and Boumé all giving what they can. There's Davidson on the bottom of your screen. We'll have to go to him at some point. But for the moment, Prada will be eyeing up this defense, hoping he's got enough legs to run away. He will also try and give as much toe to Jack Sedgwick when James Boumé pulls out of line. Keep it side by side as much as he possibly can. The long launch down the hill then, as they will look over to the final corner. That Carousel X-style run. It's his Alexander Davidson's corner that he'll go through right now. Sedgwick, look at Boumé all the way to the right-hand side. Davidson will take the win here at Aragón. Tommy Vidal will take Prime honours. Boumé to the outside. Can he get the pass done? Sedgwick's got half a car as they run to the line. Sedgwick holds.
An absolute banger of a finish there, as it took all the track and then some for Sedgwick to hold off your defending series champion James Boumé. What an absolute fantastic finish. Michael Gray gets a black flag at the end, but as they cross the line, it will be Ben Cullen, your winner in AM. So all three class winners, Jake, finish in the top 12. Engelstad makes his way to 13th, but still too little too late to try and get that AM win.
Yeah, that is going to really, really sting out there, knowing that you're that close to the AM win and you're just not going to get it. But it is critical points out there, so mark that down as some wonderful racing here from Aragón. Aggressive racing, a lot of damaged cars and Pride out there that's not going to be too happy, but a really, really strong return to racing here after the Week 13 break. Let's get a little look at your results here, because there will be changes on it as they go through and the penalties do get applied. Alexander Davidson wins by 2.5 over Tommy Vidal, who takes the Pro-Am victory with a stellar drive from him in the RAA SimSport 2 car. Anders Mira will redeem his race 1 by finishing in 3rd. Lucas Prada, Jack Sedgwick and James Boumet, you couldn't split them really over the end, and just 13 thousandths between Sedgwick and Boumet over the line. Gabrielson will be 7th ahead of Aidan Young, Aidan Carter and Harrison Crowther, your top 10. William Guthrie would be in 11th, so good hold from him. Ben Cullen, although his number's a little incorrect, he is the winner of the AM category in the number 90, with Tristan Engelstad in 13th. Luca Tingor is 14th with Adam Watson. What a recovery for him. 42nd to 15th in that one, the karting experience there. He just made moves out here at Aragón. Joe Newman and Michael Gray, 16th and 17th, but Michael Gray, who was 17th, will actually be down and classified a lot further back. He will go down to 33rd with the unserved time penalty at the end of the race he picked up on the final corner. Turnerson will be promoted up with Taylor Lane 18th and David Baker 19th. Out there, as the top 20 will effectively be rounded out by the AM Championship leader, Janis Scholtain. Out there, Seaman Andre Livingston will then follow Jack Osborne, Eric Hartman and Owen Neve. Ross McFarlane, a 25th ultimately for him. That's going to hurt. He basically matches Anders Mira once again with Ben Bennyworth, Arthur Thurtle, Jaco Vonderlit, and also Michael Evdoka down the order. Tough day at the office. He had a really good drive, it must be said, over at the Hockenheimring before he got caught out with issues. Jacques Seaver will then be 30th, and effectively 31st will be Ben Gregory. Axel Sliapacevic there in 32nd. That's when Michael Gray will jump in. So Gianni Tehar is 34th and John Lloyd 35th, the last on the lead lap. Only 2 other finishers were Howard Hassan and Dean Timms. Retirees, Josh Boot, Phil Samways, Jan Dufner can't get a finish out there. Neither can Colin Sansom. Well, good night, sweet prince. Dennis Grabowski then having a really tough time of things. Jesse Payne-Wilkins, Andy Scheel and Akos Shinteski, who made a very good start to that race, but ultimately couldn't find the result that was necessary. We're going to get this chance to chat to a couple of drivers out there at this point in time. We will go over to a driver who took the win in round 6 and made great progress in round 7. James Boumet here along with me for this run. Now, James, in terms of getting yourself back into the swing of things after week 13, that Mercedes looked really, really strong over the course of racing. You've commanded race 1s over the course of this season, so to get 3 out of 3 in that regard in these types of progresses here, you've got to be happy that you're on the right side of the column every time.
Oh, definitely, mate. I think it's important. I think with this championship especially, race 1's always important. It's always good to stay out of trouble, and of course in race 2 as well, but it's nice that today has finally got a lot more, a lot more consistent throughout the season, rather than sort of having a first place and then a 30th place. But yeah, I'm very glad, and massive shout out to P1 Docs for an amazing baseline setup to use for the track actually as well.
So let's talk then being back in the pack, 30th position on the start, and just how different of a race it feels between round 6 and round 7, because being back in 30th, you must feel like you're penned up in a chicken coop by comparison to what you had to begin with.
Yeah, it really was. I think the other thing as well is, I didn't actually buy the track until the Sunday evening, and I think it's the same for a lot of people in the sense that a lot of people haven't got a lot of racing experience around this track as well. So I think for this race especially, I just wanted to take it super easy, super chill. And I think it paid off massively in the first few laps as well.
So this is what happens when you've got an open style circuit like this one. We're going to take you to the streets next round at Adelaide. Do you think that it's going to get even more sort of penned in, aggressive, that style of racing, that it's almost going to feel like a supercars race than it is going to be a GT race?
Yeah, I think the aggression is going to be a lot higher in the next round. especially as there's not many overtaking opportunities around Adelaide as well. It's really tight. So I think, yeah, it's another one to sort of prepare for and try and sort of build as much performance as I can, and also just stay out of trouble again, really, which is a really strong element of this championship.
Well, if my commentator math is anything to go by, I think you may have just squeaked into the championship lead today without drop rounds put in. So James Boomey then getting a huge result then with a win and a top 10 result out there overall. A wonderful bit of running in. Jeremy Scott has got a chance to run down the paddock. He's with the AM Championship leader, Janis Scholtain.
Well, before we get to that real quick, your AM winner was indeed Tristan Engelstad, as we had a little bit of mix-up here, so he is your winner there in race number 2. Janis Scholtain, it's been an absolute pleasure to watch this, this championship develop. And, the Fry Guys Motorsport team, you guys have been on it the whole race season.
Yes, it was a very tricky race, this one. It's also the first time we were a bit together, and there were some nasty stunts from my end on Lloydie, but it was a fun race, especially the first one. Second one was a bit hectic with the reverse grid getting sent on by all the fast guys behind us. It was a bit scary, especially with the incident points you rack up here. The second one was quite a bit of survival and not getting killed by the faster class.
Yeah, at least you just had one class of car, one style of car instead of, like a prototype versus a GT. But something that James Boomey just said is he just bought this track recently. It's a track that not many of you guys have had in your files. Was this the case for you as well?
I have driven it quite a while when it was in the official servers. So I had that week home from school, so I drove it quite a bit, and I was, to be honest, quite shocked that my pace was as fast as it was. If I didn't bin my quali lap, I would have been in the top 20, quite close to some of the pro-ams and pro. So I did quite some running on here, and it showed in pace today.
Well, of course, next week we go off to another new track, at least to the surface, the Adelaide Street Circuit. And I know you probably have to go back to school. So how are you going to balance trying to learn the track and get faster while still going through your studies?
Yeah, I've luckily done some running there, but mostly in a Porsche Cup. But I luckily have the weekends and the Monday. So I try to manage with the little time that I have to learn the tracks. But I manage it.
Well, either way, a great, cool run for you here today at Aragón. Congratulations. We'll see you next time out.
Thank you.
Scholtain, your AM championship leader. And it just goes to show how much these drivers really needed to prepare for Aragón, which is kind of surprising because a lot of them still had to get the track.
Well, you got to remember there is an abundance of tracks out there on the iRacing service. There are some circuits that you would have looked at 10 years ago, for example. I put VIR as a big example. A lot of the modern driver in iRacing doesn't have VIR. VIR would have been a staple track for many 10 years ago. So you'll see it with releases. Tracks like Aragón, for example. Not many people will have Aragón because GT Spec will turn around and look at this and go, yeah, it's not quite the easiest fit, but it's just proven tonight. Here, Jeremy, I want to get your opinion on it. Aragón is a great track for racing.
Oh, I absolutely love Aragón. I first commentated on it about 6 months ago, and everybody's like, oh, it's such a bad track. I love it. I would love to get behind the wheel of it and get my hands on it, but either way, this is going to be one of my favorite racetracks we got coming up next week because love seeing supercars up and down it.
Yeah, but we'll see GT Spec here first. It's technical, so it'll be a 30 and a 60 that you will get. 8 p.m. GMT will be the time and place for that on March 30th. So mark it in your calendar. We're going to be in for some amazing racing here with the World GT Championship as we edge ever closer to halfway over the course of this season. From the team that's brought this to you today, from Ramiro Augustin Cisneros on the cameras, from Jeremy Scott alongside me, my name is Jake Spence. vary. A day of days. Then for James Boumet, who will now rest a little bit of misfortune away, get himself the points that he wants, and we'll now see him in pro honors starting to make that position tell. But there were some great drives up and down that order on a tough day here at Aragón. I think everyone is due for a very nice siesta, but they know it only gets tougher from here, because after this, well, it's just 7 days until they hit the streets of Australia. We'll see you in 7 as we go to Adelaide.
As well. What a move for the 48. Oh, look at this. And onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from the number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.